Now that the report of the Honorable Farouk Lawan-led Subsidy probe panel have been submitted to the House of Representatives is no longer news. But what is now news is the accusation and counter-accusation between Mr. Femi Otedola, an oil marketer, and the panel chairman, Mr. Farouk Lawan, over a $620 bribe. This next report by our correspondent Deji Bademosi chronicles some of the events leading to what could become the most sensational bribery case in the history of the National Assembly.
We presented a report that, to the best of our knowledge and to the best of our ability, represented the work that we did.
He was widely considered a hero and the shining light of the House of Representatives.
I recall when you made a presentation the other day.
For 3 whole weeks in the months of January and February, Mr. Lawan was the senator of all eyes as he pilots affairs at the Subsidy probe panel. He and members of his team grilled oil marketers for unending hours in their bid to unravel the truth.
Fuel subsidy.
By April 24th, the panel had concluded its assignment and placed this 210-page report before the entire House for consideration. After a 2-day debate, some amendments were made and the report was approved. And shortly after, this is what Mr. Lawan had to say about the pressure he and his committee members came under.
I'm not going to mention names or tell you who. Yes, we had pressures. There are pressures from some of the marketers, equally putting pressure, most of them going through either friends or even some colleagues in the House. But we made it very clear. Anybody who is not guilty of anything should have no cause to worry. But
over a month later, June 9th to be precise, the whole story changed dramatically. Billionaire oil magnate Femi Otedola burst the bubble. He alleged that Mr. Farouk Lawan had approached him, solicited and collected $620,000 as bribe money to remove his companies from the list of oil firms indicted in the panel's report. The $620,000, he said, was only part payment, as the actual sum is $3 million. Mr. Farouk's first reaction was complete denial, saying Mr. Otedola lied, but he has since adjusted that to say he indeed collected the money only to expose Mr. Otedola. The police is now investigating the whole affair. As for the 2 companies at the center of the controversy, we traced them to page 146 of the Farouk Lawan's panel report. Both Synopsys Enterprises Limited and Xenon Petrol and Gas Limited were numbers 5 and 6 on the list of oil firms that obtained forex but did not import petroleum products. The panel had recommended that the companies on the list be referred to the anti-corruption agencies. However, the 2 companies had their names removed from the list at the instance of Mr. Lawan when the House debated and considered the recommendations. Fortunately, we caught that on tape, and here's how both Synopsys Enterprises Limited and Xenon Petrol and Gas Limited got their names removed from the list on the advice of Mr. Farouk himself.
May I call on the chairman of the committee to give us a further brief on recommendation number 29.
Mr. Chairman, arising from the presentation, as I mentioned in my earlier remarks, there are instances where further documentation was submitted to us, and I want to recommend that number 5 and 6, we were able to establish that number 5 and 6 were not on the petroleum subsidy scheme. So I want to recommend that we amend this list, and the amendment should be that the marketers who obtain forex but as amended who did not import petroleum products should be referred to the relevant anti-corruption agencies with a view to verifying what they used the forex for. I therefore move that amendment.
Correct. Honorable Farouk, I guess this is amendment coming from your committee. Interesting, because you've not. Now, can we therefore listen in silence again to Honorable Farouk? Honorable Farouk, our colleagues want to hear you once more.
Honorable colleagues, the amendment we are moving is, when we came up with this list, we were guided by the list of those companies, because our mandate was to investigate the issue of subsidy. So those ones that collect subsidy and did not utilize collected forex, but did not import, or we could not establish that they actually imported, we recommended that this should be further investigated. Our initial instinct was to ask them to refund, but we felt that we should demand for further investigation so that perhaps in the course of the investigation, it could be established whether that they actually utilize the forex for something else. Now, since the presentation of this, we have received further information, just like in the case of one or two other recommendations that will come to, indicating that two of the companies were not on the PSF scheme at all. So we are recommending that we should amend this to only relate to those companies that were on the PSF scheme.
My name is Jerry Manway. I'm from Taraba. Mine is a further clarification on the names of the companies to highlight. Okay.
I rise to second the motion, ably moved by the chairman of the committee. I so second.
My dear colleagues, those in favor of the amendments as proposed by the committee and seconded by Honorable Razak, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it.
Not a single nay. And that is how Recommendation 29 was amended and passed. Synopsis Enterprises and Xenon Petrol and Gas were thereafter expunged from the list. The question is, was this Mr. Femi Otedola's bribe money at work, or was Mr. Farouk Lawan only just doing an honest job? Deji Badimasi, Channels Television News. Sorry, it's a long one, huh?
The consumption level in this country. And we have recommended